I want to talk to you today about a different style of ministry. Most of us, when we think about ministering to people, what we do is pray for them. Someone shares a need in small group, and so we gather around and lay hands on them and we ask God to meet them. That's one way of doing ministry, and it's perfectly valid. But I like to do another way. For instance, in the workshops that the meta formation workshops that I do, I don't allow people to pray for each other. And what I say to them is, for these few days, we're going to let Jesus do all the ministry. You already know how to pray for each other, so we're not going to keep doing that. We're going to learn a new way. So I'm going to take away from you the thing that you're used to doing, praying for each other, and we're going to teach you a new way. So the way to let Jesus do all the ministry is when a person has a need or a question, instead of you praying for them, you have them ask Jesus directly for it. It's really simple. I do this all the time in my coaching as well. I had a client a while back that wanted some perspective on a decision, and he told me all about what was going on and what his alternatives were and should I do this or should I do that, and after he talked for a while, he asked me what I thought, and I said, so when you ask Jesus about it, what's he telling you? And he said, oh oh yeah, I should just ask him. Okay. And then he hung up. That was the end of the call. But I didn't do any ministry with him. I reminded him that he can go to Jesus and get ministered to. Another fun situation, we had a gal in one of our workshops who tapped into this really painful place where a relative had committed suicide in her home. And she had so wanted to help and felt like she couldn't. And her team in the workshop's getting ready to pray for her, and I came up and I said, okay, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to let Jesus do the ministry. So what I said to her is, what's the question you most want an answer to? And she said, well, what I want to know is, did I do enough? Was there something else I could have done? And I just said, okay, well, why don't you ask Jesus that question? And she closed her eyes and prayed for about 30 seconds, and then she opened her eyes and she said, Jesus said I died for her, and even that wasn't enough. And the trauma in her was healed, and the belief in her that she had not done enough was changed, and it took about a minute. But Jesus came and ministered to her himself. And one of the things we do in church that's not really healthy is we have a way of communicating to people more about what they can't do than what they can. When a person needs a touch from God, we don't help them go to God and get that touch. We ask God on their behalf to do it for them. When we want people to understand the truth, we generally don't help them seek it out. We tell them what the truth is. And we have a tendency to do Christianity as if all the people in our congregations and all the people in our small groups that we work with are 8 years old or 10 years old, and they need someone older and wiser telling them what to do. I like that song. But that's how we operate with people. But there's a different way. The reason I love to take people to Jesus to get their own answers is because what happens the next time they need an answer? If I gave it to them, the next time they need an answer, they'll come back to me. If I showed them how to go to Jesus and get an answer, the next time they need one, they'll go to him. And if you're a pastor or a leader, that's what you want them to do. You want less work, because I'm sure you got plenty of things on your plate already. But we want to teach people to get their own answers from God and have their own encounters with God. I got an email from someone just the other day. When I started working with her a year ago, she told me that God has forgotten me. He ignores me. He doesn't talk to me. And we worked through the process, and she realized the obstacles that were going on in her life. And 2 days ago, I got this email that said, I've figured out that I can help people hear God's voice. All I have to do is lend them my faith and believe in them that God speaks to them, and they'll hear. And you lent me your faith, and that helped me hear from God, and now I can do that for other people. And one of my goals is I want to create an army of Christians that know how to go to God and have Him touch them, and also know how to help other people have that same experience. So instead of praying for everyone they meet, they help that person pray and meet Jesus.